When we first all come together as a staff was one of the highest feelings that I have had in my career. That to me was worth all the tough moments that come with opening a school.
You're listening to Around the School Table, hosted by me, Steve Davis, and proudly powered by Zuno Suite. We'll be bringing together the many voices shaping primary and secondary education across Australia, from principals and teachers to education thought leaders and system innovators. Whether you're in the classroom, the staff room, or the boardroom, this is your podcast to be informed, inspired, and connected. On today's episode of Around the School Table, we're joined by Kristy and Suzanne Litchfield, the founding leadership team at Turrun Primary School. That's a school that began as nothing more than open land and a vision. With a name rooted in local Indigenous language and meaning, Turrun's story is one of building identity, culture and community from the ground up. Kristy and Suzanne have navigated constant change, they've embraced diversity and kept a human-first approach at the heart of every decision. And I think their journey is going to offer us some powerful lessons today in adaptability, in leadership, and what it truly means to shape a school's soul from day one. Kristy and Suzanne, welcome to Around the School Table.
Thank you so very much, Steve. It's great to be here.
Turrun Primary started as literally a greenfield, nothing but land. The name Turrun, drawn from the local Indigenous language, refers to a type of tree traditionally used for medicinal purposes. What's it meant to you, both professionally and personally, to be part of building a school from the ground up and to see its identity rooted in something so symbolic? Kristy, can I start with you?
I think this is a really unique experience that not many people get the opportunity to experience as a principal, as a leader, as a teacher, even as a student. I say it a lot. I just feel really blessed that this has been gifted to us, I guess, in some sense. To have the opportunity to sort of mould where our school is going, to build a culture based off what Suze and I and our other leadership members believe are really core in the development of a school. And so far it's just been a brilliant opportunity, surrounded by a lot of positivity, a lot of amazing people. You'll probably get sick of me saying that because that's just the way that we work at Turrun Primary School, is about the people. And it's just a really great feeling.
If I just keep that analogy going, normally you have to graft yourself into a well-established tree, and here you've nurtured it from the ground up. Suzanne, what's it been like for you as well?
Very much the same as what Kristy said. I think it is that amazing, unique experience that doesn't come around very often. I think building culture from the ground up is just incredible, and it has been an incredible experience. Starting fresh has been really refreshing, not only for us, but for the whole staff. It's just so lovely to see positivity across the staff. Everyone feels uplifted and refreshed and renewed, and that's quite amazing to be a part of.
Just in preparing for our chat today, I just immersed myself in thinking about what your journey's been like and I got quite exhausted actually. Nothing's established or was established. You've been in a constant journey of building and deciding. That is one heck of a cognitive load. How do you personally change with this or deal with this constant change? And how do you also hire for that kind of adaptability in a teacher?
Yeah, good question. Everything's been unpredictable so far, so we have done our absolute very best to try and predict the unpredictable. As for the hiring of staff, we're really focused on the person over the skill. Like, yes, you need to have a level of skill to be employed with us at Turrun Primary School. But what we're looking for is a good human at the end of the day. So we do have these 4 school values that we live and breathe by. So respect, care, kindness, and personal best. and that we demonstrate that to our students. We are teaching our students those values, but we are also employing of those values. And when someone comes in, they're what we're looking for is someone that can demonstrate those values, that lives to those values. And ultimately, we believe that if you have those 4 values or work towards having those 4 values, you are a good human. And to place a good human in front of our students is like super important for all of us. So
Yeah, and Suzanne, your experience too, especially that having to create something from scratch all the time, decision, decision, decision. Tell me about that journey for you.
Coming into the experience, I think Kristy had such amazing vision of what she wanted the school to be. And I think that aligned so beautifully with my vision as well. So I think it's just having that really core vision of what we wanted the end result to look like, both aligned with Kristy and I. And I think our personalities are similar. We work hard. We're highly driven. And I think it makes it easier to employ staff that way, because that's who we want to build this beautiful culture that we're building. But it does come back to those core values, always coming back to the core values. But I think for me, it was that clear direction, as we knew exactly what we wanted, and that definitely helps to employ the right people.
It's funny, I've sat through lots of, and also led some vision planning sessions and all those sorts of things, and there's often a degree of cynicism because people are stuck with whatever the momentum is in the current organisation. There's a sense that it's just going to be a talk fest and nothing will change. Here, you're really living a great case study of where having some vision is something that you turn to when you have to make decision after decision. You get the payoff. I love that experience that you get that maybe not everyone gets. Am I right? Is that what's going on there?
Absolutely. I think, I think having that clear direction and vision is key. But also sitting on top of that vision are those values. And if you can bring everything back to those values and that vision, I think, everyone is aligned and everyone is on board and everyone sits in the same place. There's no variation.
Having this fresh opportunity where you don't have to do the undoing. You are starting fresh, which is fabulous because often when you go into a school and everyone's doing their absolute best. So I don't know any principal, any leadership, any teacher that's not doing their absolute best. So I'm not saying that we're going in to fix things, improve things, but that is our core business, is to always find areas of improvement and improve on. So, but when you do go into school, that's what you are doing, is almost undoing and then redoing to then drive that improvement for our students, because at the end of the day, that's what we're there for, is for the kids. So to start fresh, and Suze is one of the most smartest, driven people that I know. So I was very blessed to be able to employ her. So when it came to evidence-based approaches, implementing them and building what that looks like ground up, along with our other assistant principal, Jamie, and then our business manager, Renee, because there was 4 of us doing it all at once, to have the opportunity to build that from ground up and really solely focus on what is important, what do we want to eliminate, block out, because there's often lots of things that come into schools that either department driven or sometimes culture driven, or sometimes just who the leader is at the time, valued, whatever it is. And for us, we wanted to do, I won't say the bare minimum because that sounds terrible, but the minimum, but with the maximum outcomes. Because as an education system, I think we are so overloaded that we had this perfect opportunity to try and prevent as best as we possibly could our school from being an overloaded school. So at the moment, it's going okay, but we are still only 6 months in. So watch this space.
You just spoke nicely about Suzanne, and she possibly squirmed while you were saying that. But while that's happening, there is a question I need to ask Kristy in particular. You took a big leap of faith hiring an assistant principal that you hadn't worked with before. Now, I'm not sure, is this is from my background notes. Was that referring to Suzanne, or was that one of the other assistant principals?
It's all of them. It's both of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Dozens of others had applied that you were familiar with. What gave you the confidence to make what could be looked at as an unorthodox decision?
Yeah, I won't lie. It was a really challenging decision because I did have a number of people, one in particular that, if I'm being honest, I thought I was going to employ. And to break people's hearts is no one wants to do it. So it's the unfortunate part of the job. But I think what you have to remind yourself, or what I had to remind myself, Sue's come in and within 5 minutes, so I was like, okay, you're the one. And then I was almost hoping that she could prove me otherwise at the time, because I knew it was going to be a really tough decision to make. But I think what I had to remove myself from was the emotional connections that I had, and then make a decision that was ultimately best for our school and for our students, because sometimes as principals, or we do want to be selfish, and employ someone that we have a personal connection with. And that's because you've already built trust, and you need to have someone that you have a high level in trust in. So it is a bit of a risk employing people that you don't know. But also my gut was saying this lady and Jamie, who's the other assistant principal, who we ended up employing as well, were the right people. And Suze now is someone and Jamie, that I would never, ever want to not work with. So it's, it's been a risky decision, but for me has paid off enormously. And there is absolutely no way that I could have done it without Suze and Jamie, and also Renee, our business manager.
We've been talking as if you're not in the room, Suzanne, but were you aware from the other side of the coin about this dynamic that was going on, aware of Kristy pushing herself outside her comfort zone and making these decisions?
No, not really. I think I just saw the opportunity and went, right, I'm in, I'm going for it. I just absolutely so passionate about this job of ours. It's challenging, it's exciting, all in one. And I just saw that opportunity pop up, and I was like, I cannot resist, and just took a risk. And I actually went in thinking this is just going to be a good experience, just sitting in on this interview more than anything. And the very first question was, how do you see the school looking in 2 years' time? Like, what's your vision? And I just loved that first question. I was like, oh, give me more of that. And so I just thought, what a great opportunity to just have that interview. And it was an incredible outcome that I'm very grateful for.
Seth Godin has written a great book called Linchpin, in which he talks about the most valuable people in an organisation aren't the ones who just check in, check out, do their basics, but they're the map makers. They're the ones that see where things are at and can suggest a way forward. And that seems to be a thread that's running through here. And if I just circle back, Kristy, when I was talking initially, when you were talking about hiring, and really that whole concept of you can't teach someone to be a good teacher. Well, you can teach them to be a good teacher, but you can't teach them to be a good person. You need that emotional background. What are the signals that someone has the right mindset for this school?
Do you know, that's really tough to answer, because I've been thinking about this, and it's a gut instinct, and it's really hard to know what it is. But I think one of the very first questions we ask, it isn't one that we usually they get a list of questions before they go into an interview. They have 15 minutes to read through those questions, prepare, and then come into the interview. But one of the questions that's not on there is just tell us a bit about yourself, that this is just the way that we start the interview. And then through that first couple of minutes, you do get a nice feeling of some sort, a gut feeling, a I don't know what it is, to be honest. Typically, within the first 2 to 5 minutes, you know whether you're going to hire them or not, and the rest of the interview is either proving your gut right or wrong. So I guess there's a level of warmth. It comes back to our values of kindness and care. You want to see someone that's got a good work ethic. Our leadership team is, as I said, very highly driven. And as much as we can teach you to be a good teacher, you still need to be a person that wants to be a good teacher, which comes back to that good human of kindness and care and so forth. But it's a really challenging question to answer because it is just a feeling, and so far, you don't get it always right, but we've got a pretty good accuracy so far. And the good thing for myself or for our leadership team is we all have the same sort of gut feeling when someone walks in. So we've got a rule that if one of us doesn't have the feeling, then it's a no. So we all have to be on the same page, because that's when you will find that you are making adjustments later on, or questioning why you employed a particular person. So we've just got this agreement of, if we all have this lovely warm feeling, whatever it is, it's a yes. And if there's one or two or three, then it's a definite no. So I don't know if that really gives anyone an answer as such.
It taps into the latest understanding of the right side of the brain. Steve Biddulph in Wild Creature Mind talks about this a lot. It's the non-verbal, pre-verbal aspect of us, and it's absorbing everything all the time. And what that says to me is it sees everything. So you can't fake your way through that process. Suzanne, are you on board as well? A similar approach if you're sitting in that interviewing panel? Is that the same for you as it is for Kristy?
Absolutely. I think people come in with a particular energy and you feel their passion when they come in, and I think that's just very contagious. You pick up on that very quickly. And the examples that they provide you in the interview tells you their level of drive and their level of passion, and I think that definitely stands out. I feel like that way of doing things has paid off, because I feel like even just the first time all the staff gathered for the first time, it felt like we had been working together forever. So I do think using that sense of emotional intelligence, I guess, and that energy and that feel, I think that has paid off.
Still wrestling with clunky reports? Switch to Accelerus, the gold standard in school reporting. From semester to continuous reporting, design stunning reports in Word, pull data from multiple sources, and share with a click. Easy, flexible, beautiful. Accelerus. Love at first report. Visit xuno.com.au.
We like to think that we do live to our ideals, and you two are demonstrating that in what you're talking about. At the end of the day, there are spots on that roster that need filling. How does that challenge this high mindset that you take? Because from what I've heard, you won't bow to just, I've got to fill that slot. That's just not the way forward. Can you talk to that?
Last year we did, I can't even count how many non-appointments we made. As we all know, there's a huge teacher shortage at the moment, and who would want to open a school when there's a teacher shortage? Some would say we're slightly crazy, but people that know me in particular would probably say, yes, you are crazy anyway. But I think you have to, or what we did really well was we stuck to our model, I guess. There was a hiccup along the way. Like, I'm not going to lie, we haven't got it completely, or we didn't get it completely perfect. And there was a hiccup in particular. But overall, it has paid off enormously. So, and I think if you just were, Steve, to walk into our school, just the feeling of it speaks for itself.
It was a challenge to stick to our high standards, especially in the teachers' shortage. But I do think also the idea of a new school does attract people as well, because there are a lot of teachers out there that are looking for that fresh start, and a brand new school does provide that refreshing new start. So I guess it is attractive in that way. So we were lucky. But it definitely was a challenge, and we did stick to our high standards, which was a challenge, but it did pay off in the end.
In this process that you've been undergoing, this compressed history, at one point you were ordering furniture even before there were walls to house that furniture within, staffing without knowing final numbers of enrolments. I mean, this is a test case for having flexibility. If you look back, what have been some of the pivot moments that you've encountered along the way where you've just had to scramble, all hands on deck? Okay, we need a plan B or C or D.
Well, talking about furniture, there was only 2 times I cried through this whole process, and one was around furniture. It was not a fun experience whatsoever. But that could just be a whole other podcast to be honest. So.
Well, it is called Around the School Table.
Yeah. What Sue said before when we first all come together as a staff was one of the highest feelings that I have had in my career. It was just a really beautiful moment. Having our community attend for the very first day, and it actually going to plan and all the hard work being paid off, seeing the kids in our school uniform, our teachers with smiles on their face, our community just overwhelmed with joy. That to me was worth all the tough moments that come with opening a school. So I think it's the people side of things, if I'm being honest. Anything to do with the little humans and the big humans makes this job worthwhile.
I actually think huge, amazing credit to Kristy and Renee, who's our business manager. I just think their level of knowledge and planning of all those option A, B, C, and managing budgets and understanding the unpredictability of enrolments. I was just in awe of watching them manage all of that, and I learnt a lot professionally through them. So it's been a huge, incredible professional learning experience. I just think the expertise of Kristy and Renee was a reflection of the outcome. We were able to sort of predict enrolments and predict budgets and manage all that so beautifully. So I was just sitting in the background doing curriculum, but they were doing all the hard work, which is all the nitty-gritty planning and the budgeting.
She's underselling herself, Steve, because she worked her butt off.
Yes, I've got the underselling alarm going off over in the corner there. I'm an odd one because I really loved school. I really did. I think I just had this lovely stepping stone from great teacher to great teacher who cared, who gave a damn. And there was one bit where it got a bit wobbly, and that was grade 3 to 4. We had open space classrooms. And I wasn't, well, it was dangerous for me because I liked being the class clown. It just gave me a bigger audience. I've heard that you're looking at bringing some walls into your open space areas just to reduce cognitive overload. Can you talk me through what's going on there?
I'll talk in response to the building side, and then I'll let Suze take over with the cognitive overload and the curriculum and teaching learning side. But so in our learning hubs, we call them Learning Hub 1, 2 and 3. At each end, well, we've got a mixture of what you would call traditional closed classrooms, 4 walls and a door, and then 2 classrooms at each end that are, you would probably call open, but shared learning space. Okay. We, for our teaching learning approach, which Suze will explain, a closed traditional classroom is better suited. I'm not saying that I'm an expert and that one's better than the other or whatever. Just for our teaching and learning model, and from the evidence that we've gathered, is that those closed spaces are more beneficial. So we do have plans to eventually, once we've got some funds built up, to start closing them and turning them into two spaces rather than two spaces that are one. But then, Suze, do you want to explain the theory, the reasons behind it?
Having that closed in space reduces that cognitive load on students in terms of it reduces auditory, visual load that can move students away from their learning. So if we can provide that really safe space with reduced loads that can affect their learning, it improves their attention on what they actually need to do. And then all students are more capable then of taking in that information and storing it into that long-term memory. So I guess having that closed in space, an open space, has more people, has more furniture, has more displays, and that really does, in the long term, it affects their learning. So I guess most of our classrooms are closed in spaces, but there are some open spaces that we do have plans in the future to close in, just to align with that science behind how our brains actually take in information and learn information.
I'm pretty staggered that the Steve Davis protocol is there in the evidence, in the literature, because I use that open space to expand my audience, and I would have been one of those disruptive figures that you're trying to guard against.
And we have plenty of them, don't you worry.
That's good. Of course, on the flip side, there would be occasion where, because we know as humans, it's lovely when I'm focused to be in a smaller area, but there's times when I want to expansively absorb what's around me. But I guess that's why we have outdoors as well as indoors, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're really routine-based at our school. So there's lots of layers to just beyond the internal space as well. There's lots and lots of layers that then supports the evidence that sits behind it all. So we're not just doing it because it's a preference, which it is, sorry, but but it's a preference for us. We're doing it because of the evidence, the research that suggests this. So Suze has done a bulk load of work in that space, right down to our kids line up outside their classroom in roll order, just to reduce, once again, it comes back to that cognitive overload, reducing it, having high expectations, that in itself pays off greatly. So
I think it provides that calm, orderly environment, and it's that calm, orderly environment that sets up success for learning. And I think that's where the spatial layout of the classrooms plays a big role in that as well. If you have more of an open space, you're less likely to be able to maintain that orderly environment that has such a huge impact on student learning.
I've actually just finished reading On Character by General Stanley McChrystal, and one of the things he pointed, now it makes sense to me, is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so he's a great advocate of having some of those routines based, not to make us into robots, but it works with our system. And anyway, I want to time travel and go back and become one of your students. Talking of which, I don't know where I'd fit in, because you've got a very diverse population. 20 different languages are spoken at home. There's strong representation from Indian and Sri Lankan families. How's this, well, I guess you'd call it cultural richness, shape the identity and those day-to-day rhythms at Turrun?
yeah, it's very interesting because both Suze and myself, more so Jamie, had come from a school that's quite multicultural, the other assistant principal, but Suze and myself have come from quite heavy Anglo-Saxon schools. So it's been a really lovely learning curve for us as a leadership team, just to getting to know our community and growing with them. So it's still a work in progress, as into both Suze, myself, Jamie, the staff, understanding all the different cultures and religions and being aware, I guess, of the differences between what we're used to from our previous experience to what we are now. But one thing I can say is our community is the most divine community I've ever worked with. The level of respect they have for us as educators is something I've never experienced before. And that's just a credit to them as human beings. So, yeah, it's been a really, really enjoyable process so far.
I think something that stands out to me is these cultures respect education and value education. And I've just, as Kristy said, I've never experienced that before. Kristy, myself and Jamie are out every morning on the school grounds and after school, and we're making those connections with families, which is really lovely. We do have some students that need that extra support because English is their second language, and so we're slowly putting those supports in place. And then bringing the community together, we have had opportunities to do that already with Harmony Day and Mother's Day breakfasts and things like that. So it's been really nice to bring the community together for times like that. So I think it's not just the multicultural side of things. I think it's actually building a community from scratch, regardless of culture.
Yes, and how good. I mean, if the families are wanting to be there and acknowledging it, if people want to be somewhere, it allows you to get on with what you're doing. Talking of which, I need to let you two get back to what you're doing, but I've got two questions to finish off with. One of them is referring to these At Turrun guides. What are they and how are they applied in day-to-day life?
In our planning phases, we wanted to provide staff coming in with all the information that they need, or as much as they need, to get things going and to have really strong clarity. And originally we had what we call a playbook, which was just one big book full of everything that they needed to know. And after lots of talking and working things out, we decided to create small, short, sharp, individual guides that we call our At Turrun documents. And basically they're just supports for teachers, and especially with being a growing school with new staff coming in all the time, as part of, we have to have a strong induction program. So any answers hopefully are in these guides, and they are these At Turrun documents grow all the time. We now have, I don't know how many we have. I feel like we've got about 50 different guides. But I think it's created a really strong foundation for staff, and it's helped staff feel comfortable and to be able to know exactly what they're doing. But also it creates that consistency across the school as well. So everyone's on the same page and everyone's following the same thing. And I think that creates a really nice harmony across the school as well.
I can see an argument for creating your own private GPT robot, Kristy AI or something like that, which has absorbed all of these, so a teacher can just ask it questions and it's responding from those guides.
That's a very good idea, actually, because initially when we first created them, the leadership team are more than happy to help, and staff are very well aware of that. But a lot of the times we would have to refer back to them saying, have you read that Turrun document, just so that they could get into the habit of, prior to coming to leadership or so forth, that they most of the answers are in those At Turrun documents. But if you're not used to having them as a staff, they're just not used to being referring to them. So, but now it seems to be more purposeful.
Well, that sets me up for my last question. You are quite driven by a solid admin background, technical background in the way the school's been structured. You even referred to the playbook and then progressing on to the At Turrun guides. But you have commented in the past that you still want to maintain that human first element. As the school grows, as we know each other a little less intimately, how are we going to maintain that human first mindset at Turrun?
I'm hoping we won't know anyone less intimately. Even though it's going to grow and people are going to grow, it's just that it's another member to our family that we've got to get to know and work with and support and care for. And as I said, it's a family, and I can generally say I love every single person on staff. So the three of us in particular are very involved, very visual. We can have moments when we get stuck behind our desk, but we do try very hard to be within the learning hubs and out in the community. As Sue said, we're out every morning and afternoon. Sue's in particular works a lot, very closely with staff as we're upskilling them in the teaching and learning process, and then Jamie in the wellbeing. So I wouldn't say that I'm a technical leader as such. We have to be, because it's just part of the role, especially if you want to do it well. But if you always have a priority that human side comes first, and that goes right down to getting to know every single member of your community, their names, their so forth. Yeah, I don't think we'll lose. I'd like to think that we won't lose that intimate connections that we already have, and that will just continue to grow, and just the culture that we're building and have built already, people will just feel that instantly.
I think the leadership team, we've done a great job in creating strong foundations, strong roots, going right back to where Kristy started, which was our core values. And I think those core values of respect, care, kindness, and personal best, if we maintain those and we have wellbeing sitting at the heart of everything, and we have our foundational staff following those values, and that they're the ones that are leading the way for all our new staff and our new students. So I think we'll circle right back to the start, which is we hold on to our values, and they're so important to us. And I think that's what keeps culture and our strong foundations that we've created. Yeah.
They're not words on a wall for us. When selecting them, they were selected with careful intent. And it's something that you can go to any student in our school and they know what our 4 school values are, and they know what each one looks like, and we celebrate each one all the time. Yeah, I don't know, we have a community of amazing humans.
Kristy Miller, Suzanne Litchfield from Turrun Primary School in Victoria, thank you very much for being part of Around the School Table.
Thank you so very much for having us, Stephen.